Hello and welcome to another product video from Backpacking Light, and this time we're talking about this, the bush cooker, made by Qvist in Holland. Very similar in design to the most excellent bush buddy made in Canada. Now both these stoves work on the same principle, which is wood gasification. Google it, it's a very, very interesting subject matter and there's plenty of information on it on the internet. It was a science that was used extensively during the Second World War and before, in fact, for an efficient way of alternative supply of fuel. Now this particular cooker will give you a super lightweight, wood efficient, wood burning camping stove, but it also has the ability to work with other stoves and other fuels, which we'll come on to shortly. But first, let's have a look at this at close up and see how it works. Looking at the unit itself, you can see there it's got a removable collar, which the pot sits on, obviously. That sits inside there, and the whole thing will pack inside your pot nicely like that, and that can be a titanium pot or something like the Primus pot. Now the actual cooker itself is made here, so I can just tilt it towards the camera, is made of two skins. You have an inner skin and an outer skin, and there is specific airflow which is doing two separate things at the same time. What happens is you light your fire on top of the fire grate here with wood on top of it, obviously. The cold air is drawn in through these bottom holes. That then is enough air to ignite the fire, which is inside here, but some of the air is going up this outer channel. Then warm air is released through these upper holes, which mixes with the wood gas which is coming up, which reignites and makes it a more efficient burn. Hopefully the graphics will make that a bit clearer for you. And that is the principle of how it works. In its completion there, when you've got the pot on top like that, you've got the fire going and you feed it through there. You don't have to stockpile lots of fuel. Usual story, just actually lots of small twigs will, on a steady flow, will keep this going nicely. Now I did say that the cooker also has the ability to mix with other cookers and other fuels, and this is where it starts to get really interesting. My personal favourite is the Vargo Decagon stove, which you can see there, which is a side burning Meths stove. But I've also found that you can use it quite efficiently with a Trangia stove and also the Vargo Triad Meths stove. Let me show you very, very quickly how I use it. Personally, my favourite is the Decagon stove here, and when I want to use it with the Decagon stove, I simply put the Meths in the stove as I would do normally, and then put the collar around the top there, and the pot can go straight on, so I don't have to wait for it to bloom. But one of the most attractive and interesting things about it is that when I come to pack it away, I can pack the collar in, and the Decagon fits in perfectly and completely flush, so that makes for a fantastic cooking system. I've always got choice of two fuels, and there's still enough space left in there for my flint and steel and tinder and so on. Okay, so that's with the Decagon. The same principle with the Triad. You take the Triad stove, obviously you push it into the ground as you would do normally, and then you put your collar over the top there, and you've got an automatic windshield and pot support, which is much more stable than the little three prongs you have there, which is again another way of using it. Very, very useful. You could, of course, if using a bit of tin foil or something like that, put a couple of Esbit tablets in the centre of the burner unit there, and that would give you another fuel. Coming back to the Trangia, a lot of people have already got Trangias. What I find is a useful thing with the Trangia is to put the simmering ring in the bottom, fill the Trangia as you would do normally, light the Trangia, and put the pot on top, and there you have it. Instant windshield, warm air coming up the outside, very efficient, and a great little burner. So if you've got some of these Meths stoves already in your cupboard, you can combine it with this, and you'll always have the best of both worlds with at least two fuels and an enjoyable cooking system. Okay, so let's take this outside and see what it's like to work with. Well, we've made it to our camp here in the middle of nowhere, he says, tongue-in-cheek, and you can see I've got a couple of fistfuls of dried fuel there, really not much thicker than that, thicker than a pencil, and that should hopefully get our brew going. We've got the bush cooker here, and the bush cooker is inside a pot cosy, which obviously keeps the inside of the rucksack clean and for storage, and also helps with simmering, so that we don't use too much fuel when we just want to simmer some food. And then inside our titanium tea-light, Tibetan mug, we've got a Vargo Decagon stove, which you can see sits neatly inside the lip of the bush cooker. Take that out, and then inside the bush cooker itself we've got the neck, we've got some tinder card, some Hamro tinder card, and my flint and steel.
There we go. Let's get that going in there and get the rest of that Hamro paper lit. Give that a bit of a poke. Alright, while that's sort of taking shape, I'll fill the pot. That's about 500ml, give or take. It says 1100ml pot, so just under half should be 500. Of course, like all these types of cookers, you can now put the pot straight on. You don't have to wait for it to go, so pop that in there. And let's do that on. Stopwatch. I like to have a good old fabled stopwatch. Let's start the stopwatch now. Can you see that about there? Now you can see the wood gas reigniting around those circles there, the upper holes. So the warm air is coming up the outside of the channel here, mixing with the wood gas which is released from the inside and reigniting to perform quite an efficient burning system. And although it's not quite blue at this stage, obviously it's not very established, of going what, 4 minutes 15 seconds, it's certainly been kicking out a lot of heat, and the water's not far off boiling. But I just wanted to show you, it's probably pretty hard to see really, but there are jets of flames appearing to come from the circles. Obviously they're not, they're reigniting the gas, and that's what makes this burner so efficient. So we'll keep it fed with a little bit more. It doesn't take a vast amount. We've still got half that pile left that I showed you earlier on, and as you can see also, there's no great huge amounts of flame or anything appearing. It's all quite calm and stable. Pop that in there. Come back in a few minutes. The other thing I think perhaps quickly to mention, it appears now, for example, that it's going out. That's not the case at all. All it's doing is the heat is in the bottom of the cooker and it's heating up the wood, and what you'll see shortly, if I keep this recorder going long enough, we're on 5 minutes 19 now, is the flames will suddenly start to grow and appear and come back with a vengeance, again all around the lip. There you go, starting to pick up now, see it? So unlike sort of normal fires where you put too much on and it starts to damp the fire down, there you go, look at that. That's the gas reigniting. That shows you just how effective it is. So you go, 7 minutes 39, and we're pretty well there. You can see those wood gas flames working really efficiently. You notice I haven't overfilled it at all. It doesn't need a massive amount of fuel, it doesn't need to be stacked high. Just nice and steady, couple of handfuls and away you go. There you go. I think that's a brew on in 8 minutes. There you go, 8 minutes from start to finish. There you have the amount of fuel that's left over. So we probably used about 2/3 of the fuel, I think, on that. As you can see, the flames have pretty well gone out, and although it's warm to the touch, it's not piping hot. And there you go, there's the ash that's slowly burning down to next to nothing for disposal in a safe way. Leave no trace, obviously. All in 10 minutes. As with all wood burning stoves, we always advise people to make sure that when they use them with plenty of ventilation. Wood, just like any other fuel, gives off noxious fumes, and you don't want to be trapped in a tent with a lot of heavy fumes. So we'd always advise people to make sure that if you're cooking in the open or under a tarp. So very quickly to recap, the bush cooker made by Qvist in Holland is a wood gas stove. It is lightweight, very efficient, and has the unique ability to work in hand with several well-known Meths stoves, such as the Vargo Decagon stove, the Vargo Triad stove, and the Trangia stove. Of course, you can always use it with Esbit tablets placed on some kind of foil. And that is the bush cooker.